go time.
The boys are back. That's right, Florida Man Sports is here with another exciting episode. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. This is Florida Man Sports.
Welcome back to Florida Man Sports.
Let's go.
Now, on today's episode, we're going to go over a number of things, including basketball. The NBA Finals is about to begin. We got a Pete Rose situation happening in baseball. And in the NFL, they're spending some money, just like we're spending in our art department here. Big bucks being spent.
Studio, multi-million-dollar studio.
Before we get into all that, please like, subscribe, and share. Florida Man Sports will appreciate it. Now, we have a...
Can I say something about that too?
Okay.
And thank you to all of you who have already liked and subscribed. We see it. Thank you so much. The little following we're getting on YouTube and other platforms, it does mean a lot to us so that I can keep listening to this guy every episode. Thank you.
And thank you for those of you guys that went into our webpage and actually left some voicemails. We appreciate that. There's a couple we wanted to play. Some of them are a little almost borderline. We should call the cops. They're a little stalker-like. But we still appreciate the fans out there leaving us messages, and we'll share them moving forward as many episodes as possible.
Absolutely.
Now, first things first, Chris, finally, we've reached the finish line in the NBA.
Yes.
The NBA Finals begins in a couple days now. Now, out of the East, we both expected Boston preseason to win the East.
Preseason, yeah.
Before, the NBA playoffs, we expected Boston to take the East. Exactly what they did. They lost 2 games. And the whole Eastern Conference playoffs, dominant performance. Yes, we can argue that it was against an injured Eastern Conference.
Oh, we're going to argue that. We are going to argue that.
But at the end of the day, they did what they needed to do, and they got there. Now, what we did not expect, the Dallas Mavericks coming through and showing, man, the grit and really the toughness they got. They're facing off against the juggernaut in the East. We got Boston, we got Dallas. How the heck did we get here, Chris?
Yeah, for each team, I would say first, let's start with Boston. How did Boston get there, right?
Okay.
For me, let's go back 2016, 2017. The 2016 and 2017 draft went exactly the same way, Johnny. It was Philly, the Lakers, the Celtics, and the Suns. Very rarely does that happen. So now, talking about Boston, they've got the 3rd pick both years. First year, you get Ben Simmons for Philly. You get Brandon Ingram for the Lakers. And at that time, we know why. They were all graded A players, Johnny. That's why they got picked there.
Yeah.
And then you get Jaylen Brown, the grade B- for the Celtics. Then and the Suns. I got to mention the Suns. They got Dragon Bender from Israel, short end career. That's what you get, Eddie. Then 2017, Philly, Markelle Fultz. We know why he was number 1, grade A pick at that time. Lonzo Ball goes to the Lakers.
Fultz I never agreed with. I'm sorry. I know you're high on Fultz. I never was high on Fultz.
Regardless of the fact, the kid out of Washington, Markelle Fultz, he was number 1. Lonzo Ball, number 2, the first of the Ball brothers that was coming out. And then number 3, Jason Tatum to the Celtics, another B-rated pick. And then the Suns go Josh Jackson, who hasn't played in the NBA since 21-22. Eddie gets it double time. So that's what happened in those drafts. So when we ask for Boston how they got here, this is how they got here with some B+, B- grades. And all they did during that time, Johnny, is make it to 2 NBA final appearances now.
So Danny Ainge did a great job as a GM.
Of course, but it's not just Danny Ainge; it's Brad Stevens.
Well, Brad Stevens,
who's the coach.
Yeah, well, at the time, but remember, at the time there, Danny Ainge was the GM. Then he handed it off.
Of course, but Brad Stevens was the coach too. So that was a great team up. Then he became the GM. To your point, and then now it's Joe Manzula, I think, the coach for Boston, who's doing things there.
You know who's hurting the most though, Chris? What's the dude's name who was supposed to be the coach? Who's coaching the Rockets now?
Oh man, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but
that fool should be running this Boston team.
100%.
And they would go on a run. He's a good coach, but what happens when you make some bad choices at work, and now he's stuck coaching the Rockets. Sorry, but
you're good. And to put a bow on it, well said. 5th Eastern Conference final appearance, 2nd NBA appearance. Just a true testament as to why Boston deserves to be there. As far as Dallas, Johnny, and how they got there, you can look at this many different ways. Luka gets picked with the 3rd pick by Atlanta. Remember that?
Yep.
And then the trade to Dallas. That's how he gets there. June 28th, Jason Kidd becomes the head coach after Rick Carlisle resigns. That's how they get there. And then talking about GMs, GM Nico Harrison, he executed last year's draft pick for Derek Lively. and then PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford at the end of this trade season to go to Dallas. That's really what was the key. Not to mention, of course, Kyrie Irving being a part of that team. So that's how Dallas got themselves in the situation that they're in. And they needed it probably more than Boston, Johnny, because while Boston has been in the playoffs consistently, let's be real, we didn't pick Dallas to come out of the West. Nobody did. So this is the bigger surprise in how they got there. Everything
you said is correct. I mean, ultimately, the most, I guess, surprise his career. Luka is just – listen, Luka, I don't understand this. The NBA used to be about this this athleticism and everything else. And the two best players in the NBA right now are some of the softest players I've ever seen. And Joker, guys who they look like a standard guy you see in the Y who never seen a gym. They can just shoot a rock. But hey, they respect to him. They did their thing. But
and he's a triple-double machine. He's he's carrying.
Dribbles incredibly slow.
Yeah.
I don't get it. But hey, he's a great shot, and his game has. I guess worked out well in today's NBA. But what's the biggest storyline here, Chris?
Well, and John, I mean, great point. Before I jump to that, I do just want to point out, because a lot of pundits out there, a lot of commentators are talking about this too. They're giving, Tatum and Brown, they're giving them a hard time for winning a championship so late in their career. They're giving them a hard time, and I want to point that out, because this kind of goes back to how Boston got here. So my question to you is, does Boston deserve to be here? I don't. Tell me.
I mean, of course, Boston deserves to be here. That's not the question. The better question,
because
Chris,
everybody they played was injured, Johnny. Every play. We know that we expected them during the offseason, Johnny, but they played an injured Cavaliers team.
What does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do? Like, you can only you can certain thing you control what you can control. So the fact that the opponent in front of you is injured, has one leg, is whatever, that has nothing to do with you. At the end of the day, they ran over every single one of their opponents. Okay, Miami didn't have Butler. Okay, in the Cavs, Mitchell got hurt. Okay, with the Indiana Pacers, Halliburton went ahead and got hurt. Let's be clear. The Boston Celtics were going to beat any one of those teams at full health anyway.
That's my point that I want to make. That is it really fair to say, just because we picked them, and I get it, I want to pat myself on the back too, right? We picked them at the beginning of the year, but just because we picked them doesn't make it so. If you had an injury-riddled season to get there,
Is it fair that Porzingis got hurt before the playoffs and he wasn't able to do his thing? So there's a lot of things that come into play. It doesn't matter. Boston had their own injuries to a key player. Porzingis is a key player for Boston. Of course, Brown and Tatum get all the glory. Even White gets some. Porzingis is the key. He causes the most matchup problems, and he wasn't available to him. And they still lost 2 games in 3 series against 3 teams. So Boston dominated without one of their key players. It has nothing to do with anything. Boston deserves to be where they're at. He's 100% deserves it. Okay, so I mean,
there's no argument then that Dallas had the rougher path to get there. I mean, let's be real. They played 3 of the top 5 teams.
Of course, they had the rougher path to get there, but that has nothing to do with Boston. Who cares? End of the day, they did what they needed to do.
Orlando. They didn't play Orlando.
That was the issue there. But the talk with Tatum really is kind of like, does he need this championship to solidify his legacy? Because all you're hearing right now, Chris, is like, he's a great player, but he hasn't won one yet. Does he need this championship this year? Is this his best shot?
I think every time when it comes to players of his caliber, like Brown, like Tatum, I think that unless you have a ring, Johnny, you're always going to have those question marks. But I feel like the kid has been treated unfairly. He was successful very early in his career. He's made the playoffs every year. And because of that, I feel like they're punishing this kid and saying, well, why hasn't he won a ring yet? So just to throw out some numbers, since we're talking about it, LeBron didn't win till he was 27. Steph Curry till he was 27. Shaq 28, Jordan 28, Durant 28, and I think Olajuwon 31, right? So these players won in their late 20s. These kids are 26. And if Luka wins, he's 25. Don't punish this kid because he had so much success early on and he's been in the playoffs early on. But of course, everybody needs a ring.
And we expect our great players to go ahead and increase their numbers in the postseason. And Tatum hasn't really been doing that. So those are the issues there. But we talk about Tatum, but what's the bigger storyline here, Chris? Yeah. Is it Porzingis coming back to Dallas, or is it Kyrie coming back to Boston?
Yeah, and I couldn't have said it better myself. So I think the NBA is having a field day with this because you're getting fans from all over the world at this point. Like you just said, the Porzingis reunion, right? He spends 3 years in Dallas. After playing for the Knicks, he plays 57, 43, and 34 games, and he's out of there. Then you got the Kyrie Irving reunion. He spent 2 years there in Boston. One of them, he went to the Eastern Conference Finals. So there's so many storylines there. Also, Luka, the first professional NBA team that Luka plays against, is against the Boston Celtics. So there's so many different storylines pulling here that's going to make this a great series. The one thing that, just a fun fact out there, because I like these little numbers, Johnny, the Washington Wizards, if you play for the Wizards the following year, you're winning a ring. Did you hear about that?
That what? Say that again?
Yeah. So the Washington Wizards have an 8-year streak where a player plays for Washington, then goes to another team and wins a championship. That's 8 years in a row.
Oh, man, I thought that only happened to the Orlando Magic. Oh, okay. So there's the Wizards as well, apparently.
I hope when you do your little memes and stuff for this show, I hope you have something set up for that, because that was just terrible. This is Florida Man Sports.
I don't know, man.
How dare you?
Listen, okay. So anyway, we'll go back and forth here. We know who we had beforehand. The series is starting in a couple of days.
Yes.
Who do you got winning the NBA Finals?
So who do I want, or who do I think? Because
don't do that. 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 No. That's enough of this freaking BS. Don't sit here and tell me, this is what I want. This is who is going to win the NBA Finals.
This is Florida Man Sports.
No,
I can give my Florida
but you can't do it. This is who I want to win. And it's like, no. Who is going to win? Who's going to win the NBA Finals?
Well, who I want to win.
No, I mean,
and who should win.
I'm going to walk away. Just pick. Don't
give
me want to win.
And who will win is all the same team, Johnny. Hold your.
Then don't do that. Don't do that whole thing. I'm going to go ahead. Who's going to win? Who's going to win?
Hang on, buddy. Hang on.
Oh, crap.
No, for the argument of being correct, Johnny, I'm going to stick with Boston. I picked them. It's very rare that we get to pick a team from the beginning and call it, right? I called Boston and Denver. In this case, Boston is here. So I'm going to stick with them. Yes, they did have the easier path to get here because of injuries. Mm-hmm. But to your point, it's not their fault. They're still a very capable team. They got lucky they didn't get to play Orlando. And so for me, it's going to be Boston. They have enough talent, enough experience. We just talked about how many playoff appearances they have.
Yes.
And in fact, I would argue, Johnny, before I get who you think is going to win, I would argue that if Boston doesn't win this series, this could be detrimental to them even continuing to play together going forward. Because if you can't win on the biggest stage in the prime of your career, that's a problem.
Well, remember, you called this preseason, Chris, that if Boston doesn't win the championship, that they're going to seriously consider trading Brown. You know, Tatum, after signing to a big contract, they signed Brown to the biggest contract in the offseason. Right. You predicted that he's going to the Orlando Magic. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but that's your prediction. So you stick with it until proven wrong. Listen, Dallas, they beat the number 1 and the number 3 seed. They finished with the number 5. They were the road team in every single series in the playoffs. They still found a way to pull it off here. They have like a 36% chance of winning this series according to the sports books in place right now. It's another glaring stat that's hard to overlook, is that every team that has won a championship since 1996 were in the top 8 in net rating. Now, what is net rating? It's a nerd stat there. Pretty much it's the point differential a team scores per 100 possessions. If you're in the top 8 of those for the last 25 plus years, you've won the championship. If not, you'd haven't. Dallas was not in that top 8. They were not in that top 8 there. So for a team to win, to actually break that streak, and you have to be a special team. Here's the thing, Chris. This Dallas team is a special team. They are a special
when you do
team.
The graphics, can you do a flip-flop alert? Can you do
special? I haven't said anything yet. I haven't said anything yet.
God bless you. Go ahead.
The Mavericks have played some great basketball towards the end of the season. Not only did they post the best defensive rating over the last 15 games, but they closed the season on a 16-4 run. They got hot at the right possible time. They have a lot of things working against them, but the fact that they closed out that season in a great run, that now that trade for Washington has really helped out. Now they're gelling at the right time. They've had the toughest road to get there. Boston is the juggernaut. They're their favorite. We picked them early on here. Like I said, sportsbooks have a 36% chance. But let me remind you of something, that back in 2007, with the Miami Heat, the LeBron-led Miami Heat, they had even bigger odds to beat the Dallas Mavericks.
You know how frustrated you get with me? Pick a team. This and that.
I haven't made my pick yet.
All you're doing is
I
the
haven't
same
made my
thing,
pick.
except you're doing it in a rant form. Does everybody else catch that?
Why are you interrupting my?
No,
I haven't said my pick. I'm just giving facts out there, making people like, "Where's Johnny going?
Where's Johnny going?" No, they're not. Instead, they're like, "When is he going to stop ranting?" Go ahead.
No, they're looking. They're in the edge of their seats. They'll be like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! You're giving me all this. What's he gonna do?" So LeBron led the Heat. One all-star, that's Dirk, and a 40-year-old Jason Kidd. And what happened? They lost in 6. The Heat lost in 6. The Mavericks prevailed with a 40-year-old Jason Kidd with one all-star and Dirk. These things can happen. So for me, Porzingis is the key, Chris. He is the key. He creates the matchup problems that have frustrated every opponent Boston's faced. Porzingis isn't going to be ready. Dallas is winning in 7. Dallas wins. Dallas Mavericks win the championship. Can't believe I'm saying it.
All you had to do, Johnny, honestly, don't ever talk again about me. Like, I can't do this, do that, pick a team.
I picked the team.
But don't.
I didn't see you saying I picked the team.
You know, and people, and again, this is why it's always good in Florida Man Sports to get 2 perspectives from 2 different views here. And I get that to a degree, but you again picked Boston like I did.
Yes,
you admit
100%.
that on paper they're the best team and they deserve to be there no matter what.
That's correct.
And at the end of the day, all you're doing is
the best team doesn't always win.
Novella Johnny and just creating a stir to say now you're picking Dallas.
Yep.
The thing about you though that I find so funny and terrible at the same time is that after they're 0-2 or they're down almost gentleman sweep, then you're going to go back to I'm picking Boston because you flip flop.
No,
so I'm not going to let you do that this time.
You can't do that. You can't do that in the finals.
I'm warning you. I'm warning you.
This is the nonsense.
You're hanging on to Dallas.
This is the nonsense.
It's not nonsense. You're hanging on to them.
This is nonsense. So you'll take something like I've had series like
flippity flip flop. You don't stop.
I've had series where a team is up 2-0 and pick the team who's up 2-0. I've had series in this year where a team was down 0-2. I still picked the team 0-2 to win the series, and I was correct. So you want to see him be like, I've been correct. You've been correct.
Picked the Knicks to win.
You've been correct.
You picked the Knicks to win.
You've been correct. You've been correct on 2 series this entire playoffs. The Boston series you've been correct on, and the Dallas series against OKC. That's it. That's the only ones you've been correct on. But don't say you're.
I demand. Just because you say it now in the newest podcast doesn't make it true.
Go ahead and listen.
I demand for you, but ask for people to listen to this show because this is complete.
I know
utter,
it's
you know what? I'm not even gonna entertain that.
It's unfortunate for you. These are recorded. These shows are recorded.
I pick Boston. He flips back and picks Dallas.
Listen,
at the end of the day, folks.
We pick Boston.
At the end of the day, folks, this is the perfect time to be watching Florida Man Sports. Just less than 48 hours to go before Game 1 starts, and then by the time
Dallas, Boston, I get it. They're the better team, but Miami was the better team. LeBron Miami team against Dallas, and Dallas still pulled it out. Jason Kidd is back. He knows what to do.
That's why they
better coach team.
That's why they ultimately have to play these games, and that's why I'm telling
Boston
you.
And what?
That's why I'm telling you that Boston's going to win this
Boston
series.
In what?
If Boston plays up to their level, there should be 6 games or less.
So so pick one. So
6 games or less.
So you're doing gentlemen's
baseball, where just like Johnny said at the beginning of the podcast, and again, if you're listening to the baseball segment, please like and share. I always want to remind you guys, this is Florida Man Sports. And as we're turning the page to Major League Baseball, Johnny, Major League Baseball lays down the hammer when it comes to betting in baseball. You've got the Major League Baseball permanently banning San Diego Padres infielder Tucupita Marcano, pronounce that right, for violating the league's gambling policy. Tell me about it. What's going on there, brother?
Listen, we're going to get a few stories like this every single year.
Breaking news.
And sports in general. So ever since, gambling has become relatively legalized in this country, especially, within the organized sports. Baseball, we know how baseball is with gambling. It's been established more so than any other sport. But baseball does allow you to gamble if that's what you want to do, as long as it's not a diamond sport. I mean, you cannot bet on baseball. You cannot bet on softball at any level. Any level, college, pros, whatever, like the Caribbean Series, it doesn't matter. If it's baseball, you cannot bet on it. But go with anything else. That's fine. This fool, 24 years old. This was reported last year when he was playing for the Pirates that he didn't not only did he bet on baseball, but he bet on the Pirates, on the team he's playing with right there. How dumb can someone be? I mean, do you know how, I'm sure you know, any professional sport, but especially baseball, how difficult it is to make that professional level? Because you can get drafted out of high school. Doesn't mean you're ever going to see major leagues. You get thrown in the minor league system. You may never make it there. This kid made it out of Venezuela. Thank you for that. It must have been my agent. Okay. So out of Venezuela, they went ahead and he gets in here, and still at 24 starts to go in and bets. I think you have the stats on the bets. What did he bet, Chris? Do you have it there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the guy bets $150,000, 387 baseball bets. The funny part, or not the funny part, because it's not really funny when you're gambling, you get a permanent ban. But what's terrible about this, if you're going to do something, at least be good at it. The guy wins on 4.3% of his parlays. Just embarrassing, man. Embarrassing all around.
Forget about if you're good at it or not. People that have this problem, especially with gambling, they rarely get at it. Most gambling addicts will tell you they're addicted to the losing. They want to go to lose because they want that high of the win. Even they've lost $1 million, but they won 10,000, and that's the high they're going for.
And again, like you said, right, he was injured when he did these bets. And just sad, right? $150,000. Do you know how much money you threw away with this ban? I know the money that, and baseball way more than I do, Johnny. The amount of money that you can make in Major League Baseball versus playing overseas, it's not the same.
It's nowhere near the same. Baseball, It's actually all guaranteed money. This kid is 24 years old. Yeah. Venezuela isn't the U.S. It's not Canada. It's not any place. Venezuela's a rough place these days. And you went ahead. Anybody who makes the majors, no matter where you come from, respect because you grinded and worked really hard to get there. I would imagine coming out of Venezuela, you worked even that much harder, and you threw it all away for some bets, bro. Like it's just ridiculous, the risk that some of these kids take. Just don't bet, man. First of all, what are you doing? You made it. It's like winning the lottery and then still continue to play the lottery. Like you won $300 million in the lottery, but I'm still going to go ahead and spend that $4, $5, $10. And it's like, dude, you did it. Well, you don't need to.
To add salt to the wound too, Johnny, and this is another separate thing that I've always had with the NBA, the NFL, and now Major League Baseball. Don't tell me that they don't advertise commercials for DraftKings. Don't tell me that they don't advertise commercials for FanDuel. So again, it's just the typical rhetoric where I can do it, but you can't, do as I say, not as I do type of thing. And it really bothers me because I understand why they're doing it. They're doing it for the saving of the game. But if you're compensating for this and you're making money for this and you're putting it on national TV that you have sponsors for this, man, you're a year ban. They also did another, they did a lifetime ban for him, but another handful of players got a 1-year ban. So they're laying down the hammer hard to say that this is non-negotiable.
Yeah, it's not. You don't have any sympathy from me. This is a well-documented rule in baseball. Pete Rose, the hit king.
Good point.
The hit king, banned for life for doing the exact same thing. He never bet on his own team, but he bet on baseball while he was coaching the Reds. And this is established. Everybody knows the story. If you played baseball, they know exactly what happened. And if Pete Rose got it, you think some nobody playing for the Padres right now is not going to get the exact same treatment, if not worse. And yes, I've established that we're going to get these stories every year because of the fact that now gambling has become more legalized, become more acceptable, but still not within your own sport. And it's going to continue this way. Why? For one reason, Chris, money. These organizations are making so much money from gambling. Of course, it's going to continue to thrive, continue to grow in the U.S., and we're going to continue to have these problems. But my goodness, please, professional athletes, you remember how hard you work to get where you are. It's not worth it. Calvin Ridley lost like $12 million because he bet $1,000. He bet $1,000 in the Jaguars game to them to lose, just to get traded to that Jaguars team later and then not deliver, and now he's gone somewhere else. He's still making his money.
He got paid.
He's still making his money, but he still lost $12 million on a $1,000 bet. It's just not worth it. Like, what is wrong? Figure something else out. You do something else, but in professional sports in the United States, don't gamble.
No, absolutely, Johnny. I couldn't agree more with you there. Sticking with Major League Baseball, let's talk about the AL/NL here, and we'll start with the Phillies, where we already know the Phillies are leading 42-19 in part, Johnny, because of what happened to the Braves, the injury to Acuna, and of course the Phillies are doing their best to capitalize there. But for the Yankees, on the other side, they're at 42-19, Johnny, leading the American League. Let's talk about Juan Soto. Yeah. What do they do with Juan Soto? He just got named AL Player of the Week. He's having an incredible first year with the Yankees. My man's going to get paid.
I believe so. I think most people believe he's going to get paid. This dude has some cojones because he was offered $450 million, 15-year deal back with the Nationals, and he said no to that because and that's still ended up being about $30 million a year. It's less than market, but still $30 million a year for 15 years guaranteed. And as some 21, 22-year-old kid says, "Nah, I'm good. I'm not going to take that." The Braves have been the Braves because of the fact that they've taken young talent, and signed them after 1 or 2 years. Acuna is on a 10-year, $100 million contract, and $10 million a year.
Underpaid, yeah.
But it is what it is. You take that chance. Anybody like you or me will go ahead. Wait a minute, I get a guaranteed contract with the team and $10 million, $15 million a year, of course. Even though if you want to wait and take that risk, you can really pay out. Juan Soto has decided to take that risk, and so far, listen, he can get injured tomorrow. But so far, it seems like it's working out. With the Yankees, he's batting .322, 17 home runs. He has been the best hitter on the best team in baseball. The fact that you have Judge batting right behind him means pitchers have to pitch to him. Now, Juan Soto's known for having one of the best eyes in baseball. He can take pitches, he can do anything else. And who's benefiting from this is what the Yankees hope is Judge. Judge is having a monster year himself. This weekend, he went 6 for 10 for 3 home runs. And every time that they tried to walk or Soto got on base, Judge made him pay for it. Soto had a game-winner home run, well, I guess in top of the ninth, but still game-winner home run, go-ahead home run against the Giants. He's been looking unstoppable, and everyone is benefiting from Juan Soto having the year that he's having. Not just Judge, but the team, and especially Stanton. Stanton's been somehow went ahead and as long as he stays healthy, he's going to have a good year himself. It's simple for me. I see Juan Soto having 40 plus home runs this year. I see Judge having 40 to 50 home runs this year. Both things happen. They see that they're working. It's kind of like, Ruth and Gehrig type, those two players back to back on that, like, DiMaggio, Mantle. If those things happen, this dude's going to get paid. And it's simple. I see Juan Soto. It's either going to be a 10-year, $500 million contract, so $50 million a year, or if they go crazy, $600 million, 15 years. They may try to extend it out. He's only 25 years old, Chris.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, is he going to try to get that contract all the way till he's 40? I think the Yankees are going to attempt to go and be like, I'll give you big money. I'll give you $500 million, $50 million a year for 10 years. You get out of that contract by the time he's 35. And when the numbers start dipping, or Juan Soto may stick to his guns. So no, I want those extra years and I want that extra money. So,
well, I think you gotta kind of back up a little bit. And I just want to tease you a little bit because I was asking you how much he's going to get paid before you.
You got me talking baseball.
Into the skin. No, I get it. But I think my first question, maybe you can answer it this way. He's not done playing with the Yankees. This is his first year, so we're just assuming because Yankees have the bank that he's going to want to play and sign a big extension with the Yankees. That's an assumption that I think you're making, and a lot of people are making. It doesn't mean that there's other teams that are going to have big money to offer him.
Nobody, of course, there's other teams.
Yeah.
Nobody has, I would say the Los Angeles Dodgers, but we saw the Dodgers have spent all the money. The Dodgers did what they needed to do. The Yankees, with the exception of what they signed for Judge a couple of years ago, haven't
Judge was a 10-year, $300 million.
Right around that, right around there. So it's actually less. It was less than 10 years. I believe it was 7 years. Okay. So remember, because Judge came into the league at 25 years old. Yeah. He got this contract when he was 30. So it wasn't 10 years there, but he got it there. So still, they signed Rizzo to a couple of years, but they haven't had monster contracts outside of Judge. So they can go ahead and pay Soto, 25 years old.
If Soto continues this run, and if he stays healthy, and if he enjoys his time with the Yankees, do you see the Yankees making an offer before the offseason? That's where I'm kind of getting at.
No, because it doesn't make any sense for Soto to do it before the offseason. Of course he can, but he's already on his final year. They already went through arbitration, and he has that his last year set in place what he's going to make this year. So he's going to wait it out. Why? Of course he wants to sign with the Yankees. He already said so. He's a Dominican cat, and most Dominicans.
See, my sources read different. My sources said he's still getting acclimated with the area, with the people. It's not 100% that he wants to be a Yankee for the rest of his career.
Half of Dominicans in the United States are in Washington Heights. It's right down the street from the Bronx.
My sources say.
He's fine. He left the Nationals. He could stay with the Nationals and got big money. He He wants the smoke. He wants the limelight. He wants that. And there's no place quite
he was
like
traded.
it.
It was a 7-player blockbuster trade that brought him there. It's not like he signed with the
He
Yankees. He got traded.
He went to Washington.
Mhm.
And then, okay, he's like, no, I'm not going to resign you guys. They sent him to San Diego. He went to one of the most beautiful cities in the country. And still, obviously, if he wanted to, he could have let them know, I want to be here, sign me. No, he obviously,
he turned down they were talking about a contract, and they knew it wasn't going to happen, so they moved him over to the Yankees.
Listen, the Yankees, say what you want, even the Yankee haters. The Yankees are the Yankees. The Yankees are the premier franchise in sports. So you can say whatever you want to hate on them. That's what it is. 27 world championships. They're synonymous with the United States of America. You think of anything sports, it's the New York Yankees, the top. People want to say some things about Dallas Cowboys, whatever. It's the New York Yankees, and everybody else is second, third, fourth. That's just how it is, whether you like it or you don't. But Juan Soto is going to test the market because he wants to drive the price up. Why the heck not? At the end of the day, the Yankees are going to offer him the most money, and they're going to sign him.
You heard it here first.
You think it's going to happen? What people talked about Cohen, the Mets, or something else here? No, they tried all that. These teams tried to spend the money. It didn't work out. The Yankees are getting there. If the Yankees make a run, which I expect them to, I called it beforehand, the Yankees are going to World Series, where I unfortunately have them losing to the Dodgers. But they make it over there. Juan Soto's going to get that taste. He's going to go ahead. I mean, he won the World Series.
I had him going against the Braves prior to the injury. But now I have them going against Philly with the Yankees winning. But I take both times the Yankees winning.
Oh, you're making a switch there. Okay. The Yankees are going to have an expensive offseason. We've already established that there.
Staying hot.
But let's turn our attention to some NFL teams who have opened up that checkbook, Chris. Our Miami Dolphins, they re-signed Waddle to a 3-year, $84.75 million extension. Minnesota decided they don't need to re-sign Cousins. We don't need a quarterback, but we're going to go ahead and give the most money ever to a non-quarterback. Jefferson signs for 4 years, $140 million. That was good low. Do these deals make sense, Chris?
Do the deals make sense?
It makes sense.
Man, it's depends how you look at it. If you look at it by NBA and Major League Baseball terms, they do. Justin Jefferson's $110 million goes back to Jordan Poole. He got the same kind of money for the NBA.
Or remember, 110 guaranteed, but 140.
But that's what I mean, though, as far as the money wise, right? So when you're talking about money, guaranteed money, right? $110 million, that's what Jordan Poole's making in the NBA. So when you look at it like that, and when you look at Major League Baseball, you just said earlier that they're all guaranteed contracts. Yeah, this is a good sign for wide receivers for the NFL. And now talking about kind of guaranteed money, this is the most guaranteed money in the NFL for a player that is not a quarterback. Mm-hmm. This is a huge deal. So my grades as far as evaluation for Waddle, $76 million guaranteed for the Dolphins. I give that an A. He's deserving of that money. No matter who's the quarterback, he's an elite talent. For Jefferson, I find it so funny, Johnny, that Stephon Diggs didn't get paid. Let's not forget about that. He had an opportunity to get paid and said he got traded to the Bills, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now here, and like you said, right, they got rid of Kirk Cousins. They clearly see something in this quarterback. And everybody during the NFL draft, everybody speculated that they were going to trade him because rightfully so. If Cousins is gone, why are you keeping Jefferson? And like you said, Johnny, they bring out the bag, well deserving of the $110 million. I don't knock any team that's going to pay their wide receivers that are deserving of the money. This next year, I expect all those guys that we just talked about to be Pro Bowlers. So definitely in the short future, this was a great deal for everybody involved. And you know who was involved too that was really, really good for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look at this, folks. Okay. This year,
please elaborate.
Mike Evans signs a 5-year, $82 million contract with $55 million guaranteed. Out of all those wide receivers that I just named, he's the only player that's got over 1,000 yards over the last 10 years. So this just goes why I've been saying this for 3 years now. Jason Light needs to be GM of the year.
Oh my God, no!
He needs to be GM of the year because if those grades, if I'm giving
Evans
you
in his 30s,
if I'm giving you, of course I understand that plays a part, 100%, Johnny. It plays a part. But if you're giving Jefferson an A, which I am, you're giving Waddle an A, which I am.
You're giving you're grading for me.
No. I'm saying if you are, no. What I'm saying is I'm going to wait. But if you're giving it an A, like I am, is what I said.
Okay.
Then you have to give the Mike Evans signing an A++ and then some. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited that players are getting paid for a league like the NFL that you got to get that guaranteed money because the lifespan is short. It's like 2.5, 3 years and you're done. So I love this. I love this for the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, you're much more enthusiastic than I am, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to hate on any player getting their money, but this isn't about the player. We're talking about the team itself. Is this a good deal for the team?
100%.
Now, Waddle.
100%.
Waddle's going to would be a number one receiver in any other team in the NFL. So that deal that they got him, he's in his prime. He has been synced with Tua since the days in Alabama. They get him for 3 years, 80-some change $million. That's an A+ for Miami. Well done. Go ahead and get them. Said it done there. A+ Miami. No. Okay. Congratulations. This is where you're wrong, Chris.
Okay, tell me.
This is where you're wrong here.
Tell me where I'm wrong.
Jefferson gets a C-.
Wow,
What the heck is Minnesota thinking? Okay. Let's look beyond the obvious. You know, you have the low-hanging fruit that Chris picks up. He's one of the best receivers in the game. Yeah, 100%. Okay. But you mentioned something, Chris. Diggs, who at the time was one of the best receivers in the game, didn't get paid. And they traded him off to Buffalo. Why is that? Because who was throwing him the rock? Keenum? When you don't have a quarterback, why the heck are you paying a receiver? That never works out when you have an elite receiver with a subpar quarterback. Ask, OBJ how that worked out for him here. It doesn't work out ever in the NFL. So you're going to go ahead and pay this guy the most money ever at that position, the wide receiver position, which is important, but you need somebody to throw him the rock. You need premier talent, and you have a rookie. Oh, my bad. No, who you signed? Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's getting the start, or J.J. McCarthy's getting the start. Those are your two options. And you paid so much, all the money, to an elite receiver when you could have traded him and pick up multiple first-round draft picks. Heck, you could have probably convinced the Bears to give up that number one overall pick for Jefferson. And maybe, if you're going to do a rebuild, which is what you're doing, Minnesota, then do a complete rebuild. I understand you have one of the best players in the league, but at that position, that only works when you have the proper quarterback. And Minnesota clearly does not. They let Cousins go. They should have re-signed Cousins, but they didn't want to go and spend the money. They didn't have to spend all the money. They still could have got Cousins for the same price that Atlanta got him, and still went ahead and re-signed Jefferson, and then go ahead and continue to do this. And if they wanted to go ahead and pick up J.J. McCarthy at that, they still could have picked up J.J. as the backup, but they didn't. So this gets a C- because he's an elite player in a position that requires an elite quarterback to get his numbers up. Jefferson's going to have a down year this year because of who's throwing him. Not because he's not one of the best, if not the best, receiver in the game. It's that nobody's throwing him the ball. So because of that, negative, Chris, C-. And
this is Florida Man Sports. I love it when Johnny Cinco goes into these rants and he just lands flat on his face. So let me correct some of some of this. When talks about low-bearing fruit, for starters, talking about Stephon Diggs, the last 2 years in Minnesota, Kirk Cousins was his quarterback.
Yeah, but
so excuse me, sir, you got your turn. It's my turn.
It wasn't the last. It was the last year.
It was 2 years. Yeah, 2 years under Kirk Cousins. And so the reason why, and this is why I don't like when people compare one receiver to the other, like a quarterback to the other. There are more reasons that we don't know underlying issues why Stephon Diggs was traded. Locker room, presence, communication, relationship with Kirk Cousins, because they did play 2 years together. There's a lot more that goes to that before he just goes, well, they did that with him, and so no, this doesn't make sense. They should have got draft picks. No, what they did was they believe in McCarthy. They got Cousins is out of there, and they're giving McCarthy the best tool, the top 5 receiver in the NFL.
Yeah,
and there's nothing. And there's nothing. Well, we're going to see this year, Johnny.
Rookies do great.
Johnny,
with the exception of C.J. Stroud, it just doesn't happen.
We're going to see that this year. But no matter what, if you grab A.J. McCarthy and you put him in with rookie wide receivers, or you put him in this case with a top 5 wide receiver, you're going to give him the best chance possible. It's what the Tennessee Titans are doing with Levis. It's what these teams are doing now. They're putting elite talent. It's what the Chicago Bears, even though I don't like it, are doing with their rookie quarterback, with the veteran wide receivers that they've added. So again, this is not low-bearing fruit, Johnny. These are facts. And the fact is, Jefferson got paid. The genius in the contract, folks, is this.
What's the genius?
The guaranteed money is typically up front, and the breakdown is like 80%, 70%, 60%, so you move your dead money towards the end of the years. Well, guess what? If A.J. McCarthy does well, which don't plan to fail, but don't fail to plan, now you're not paying that elite money because you paid it up front, and you got the bag to pay A.J. McCarthy. So this is a genius move for Minnesota and a right one to make when they don't have to overpay for a quarterback. Mike. drop.
No,
Florida Man Sports.
it's not over.
Damn good.
You say overpay for a quarterback. Overpay. This is a rookie. There's been one rookie who's had a dominant QB performance. Let me pick up your jaw off the floor here. Okay. It's one rookie, and that's last year, C.J. Stroud. You over here like it's J.J. McCarthy, but like you still, this ends up being something to where you keep focusing on the fact that Chicago's doing this. Chicago's had multiple
I'm just jumping
number
on you
one.
You're saying it's a C plus, Johnny. This is an A move. I
didn't say C plus, C minus. Yeah, get that right.
Okay,
C minus. Okay.
Now after I destroyed you, is it a B minus?
No, it's not. You didn't destroy anything.
Okay.
So Minnesota just spent way too much money on a position that isn't going to go ahead and be prioritized this particular season coming up because of the fact they have Sam Darnold and McCarthy as the quarterback, the position. So they should have waited. I get it. You're going to spend money, but they should have waited to see what they're going to get from McCarthy if they're going to start with him and see before you give him the big money. You could have done this mid-season. You could have done it, and I get the price. Chase and CeeDee Lamb are waiting. So those are the two guys that are really next up, Chris. So with those two receivers, are they setting the market, or is Jefferson still maintaining top paid wide receiver?
No, I think that's a great question. I think that if any NFL owner or GM is out there, I don't think you need to overpay more than the Jefferson deal. I think that is exactly where, if you feel like you're a top 3 talent, that's where it should be. If you want to play up or down with guaranteed money a little bit, I think that he set the precedent and he set the tone for that. If CeeDee Lamb gets paid more than that, that's when I'm going to start saying, and again, this is no knock on people getting paid, but there has to be a limit because in the NFL, you have different positions and they got to get paid too. So I think that this is it. If he gets similar money, that makes sense. I get it. It's going to be about the guaranteed money that really comes down to it.
So are you saying that either one of those those players are both going to get paid less than Jefferson?
Well, let's go one by one. CeeDee Lamb, I would expect the same, but less guaranteed money. So people in the NFL, it's all about
less.
Yeah, well, same dollar amount, but less guaranteed money where you have to play up to get it.
Chase.
Okay. Honestly, man, because of the injuries, not because of talent, but because of the injuries, I'd have to be even lower than that. Maybe similar dollar amount, but you got to play enough games and you got to be healthy enough to play for me to pay you. So I would not. He's an elite talent.
He had one season where he had a couple of injuries.
But he's always been, as a fantasy football champion that I am, by the way, fantasy football champion.
Mm-hmm.
Last couple of years, he has yet to play completely healthy seasons. It's complete truth. He's always hurt or questionable or on the injury report.
Chase.
So I don't know that I paid. You asked me the question. I don't know that I pay him the guaranteed money like that with somebody who's that injury prone.
I disagree. I think he's not injury prone. Your Burrow was injured last year, and yes, he has things, but ultimately for him, he probably could have played. Was it why is he going to come out there since who he had him throwing the rock wasn't really doing what he needed to do? But Chase is, for me, the best wide receiver in football. I have him rated higher than Jefferson. The numbers are very similar, and that's with Burrow being out essentially an entire year. And he came in, Chase came in when Burrow's rookie year. And you had Jefferson come in with an established Pro Bowl quarterback in Cousins. So his numbers, of course, are going to be a little bit higher. At the end of the day, CeeDee Lamb, it doesn't matter because Dallas doesn't have the money. Dallas, they're Napoleon, what France trying to go ahead and win a war. They sold off all their territories, which is Dak Prescott analogy here.
That goes back
they don't
to what
have
I was
the money.
telling you about the money in the cap, right? So not to beat a horse here, but that's why them paying the money now, hoping that J.J. McCarthy gets his money later. If he is a good quarterback, that makes sense. You just literally said it. Prescott, they got him tied like this. Now they can't, even if they wanted to, they have to restructure deals.
It's nothing to do with the fact that signing. It's like Dallas made an asinine deal. Dallas overpaid. Why are you overpaying for an unproven quarterback? They paid so much money for Dak, and it was a scratch in their head. I'm like, why? Why? What? Dak isn't a terrible quarterback. I'm not saying that, but he's not worth the dollars that he is. And that contract, which is on credit, by the way, even if they went ahead and got rid of him this year, they still have to pay next year for some money with Dak because that terrible contract they did, and they're stuck.
So
they're absolutely stuck.
Are you saying? I know you mentioned that we're kind of jumping around, but we're talking about the wide receivers getting paid.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb.
Are you saying Chase?
Chase is going to set the market. I see Chase is setting the market. Whether it's like what Jefferson got $1 million more than the next biggest contract, which was signed last year by Bosa. for San Francisco. You got $1 million more. It's going to be something similar to that. $1 million
You're
more.
talking about a guy that
Chase.
has not. He's been 3 years in the league. He's only had played 17 games through 1 year. His first year, he missed like 5 games in 2022. Last year, he missed a game. He hasn't had double-digit touchdowns since his rookie year. I just don't see how a guy like that, to me, deserves max guaranteed money. I guess it's just my thoughts, right? It just remains to be seen. I don't know how you see that.
You forget about last year because it's nothing to do with him. Burrow wasn't there. So Burrow's not there. Forget about it. So what you're going to get from Jefferson this year is similar to what Chase got last year. When you don't got your quarterback, you're not getting production from your wide receiver. And you spend all the money to get mediocre production, Minnesota. That's why you get C-. Like, you don't have the quarterback. Cincinnati has the proven quarterback. He's coming back healthy. It's going to be a monster year for Chase. It's going to be a very sad year, not in the bank account for Jefferson, but on the field, it's not going to be a good year.
That's what we got to see, and we got to see them play the games, folks. And that's why we're so excited. I got chills talking about the NFL. It's right around the corner, my friends. We want to thank you once again for listening to another episode of Florida Man Sports. Again, as a friendly reminder, please continue to like, share as we keep doing these podcasts and episodes, getting closer to the NFL season to start. Less than 100 days to go. As always, he's Johnny. I'm Christian. We're out, y'all.
Adios.